Hello and welcome to another edition, a 2023 edition of the Cleveland Sports Bros podcast. I'm Matt alongside my brother Nick. Nick, how are you doing?
Great. It's awesome to be back and continuing this podcast.
Yep, for sure. So we got a lot to talk about today. The disappointing end to the Browns season. We're going to talk a little bit Cavs, which is of course more positive, and we'll also talk about the disappointing ending to the Buckeyes briefly. But first, let's get the Browns off our chest. They end the season dismal, 7-10. Another losing season. Nick, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so going into yesterday's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, really all, at least from a fan's point of view, that the Browns were playing for was a chance to give Mike Tomlin his first losing season. They were not able to do that and sweep the Steelers for the first time since 1988. That also, of course, with a loss, did not take place. Deshaun Watson threw 2 touchdowns and 2 horrendous interceptions. Finished his 6 games with 7 touchdowns, 5 picks, and over 1,100 yards. Again, that's a small sample size, but he's going to need to do better if he's going to be the franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and he definitely showed at times signs of improvement and showed that he could be the quarterback that the Browns wanted him to be and hoped he would be, but he was still way too inconsistent. And he's definitely going to have to get a lot better to justify the $230 million contract. Not to mention all the other issues, of course. But yeah, it just again he showed signs of greatness on the field, but it was just not good enough. And I think the offense actually, for the most part, looked a lot better with Jacoby Brissett, which I think if you would have said that to fans at the beginning of the season, they wouldn't have believed you. But I guess Browns fans should come to believe that sort of thing, or maybe come to expect it. So we heard the news earlier today that of the release of Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator. So far, no other news as far as coordinators or major coaching positions or anything like that. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I think we both agree that those are probably going to be the biggest splashes that Haslam makes. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, and I believe a big name that has at least come up as a name the organization wants to take a look at is former Miami Dolphins head coach, and now with the Steelers, Brian Flores. I can't exactly remember what happened in Miami, but wasn't it something he like put like maybe got paid to drop games or something? I don't recall exactly, but let's say if they brought him in, it could maybe lead to, oh, here we go again with bringing in someone with a lack of credibility. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I know he made those allegations. I'm not sure. I assume that NFL is still investigating it, but I'm not positive where they stand on that. I do know he is a strong defensive mind. So that could be an improvement potentially. We'll see. It's going to be another big coaching change for the Browns. I know a lot of fans were thinking, maybe special teams coordinator Mike Prefer could be gone. I'm shocked he's still here at this point, just because from what we saw with the issues in the kicking game, onside kick issues. I know that we had the injury. Who was the player to the kick returner?
Jakeem Grant.
Yeah, before the season started. But as far as I'm concerned, that wasn't the issue. It was all other issues on special teams. So they seem to have a lot of loyalty there. So they're really going to have to fix some things across the board, offense, defense, special teams, because 7-10 is just not going to cut it. Again, we said another losing season, another season where Myles Garrett didn't get any younger, another season where Nick Chubb didn't get any younger. And I think it's just really frustrating, again, with all the off the field drama as well for fans. It's just, when is it going to pay off? It was nice to have that, albeit short, playoff run a couple years ago, but the Browns, I don't know what they're going to have to do to compete, because they still have talent. We saw DPJ take a step forward. Nick Chubb again was great. His numbers kind of fell off a little bit towards the end, but I think that directly coincided with the offensive line underperforming towards the end. But again, it's just, I don't think fans and players don't want to waste more years of their prime years as well. I don't know what it's going to take to get another winning season.
Yeah, and another detail I am looking at with the offense, you're not gonna. I don't care if you're bringing in what was a top 3 QB or a top 25 QB. 6 games, to be fair, isn't going to turn the ship around. And I think what'll be interesting is, can the Browns in the offseason, particularly the wide receivers and tight ends, Njoku, Cooper, DPJ, they all seem to, at some parts of the 6 games, get in a rhythm. I think the players are going to need to understand that Watson is a very mobile quarterback, and he takes the initiative more often than not. That if he doesn't see a man downfield, he might take off and run with it. We saw it a few times in the Steelers game yesterday, and in the 6 games he was here. If they can develop that chemistry, it could lead to some big plays.
Yeah, I of course, I think that's one thing that will give Browns fans hope. And unfortunately, I'm joking, but unfortunately, there always seems to be something to cling to hope for this team, and it never seems to ever actually happen. But yes, that is something to look forward to, of course. And we'll have to see if Kevin Stefanski is still going to call plays. I know that's a very popular question every year, and to this point, he's always been the one calling plays as well as being the head coach. It doesn't seem like he wants to give that up, but we'll see what management thinks, because perhaps it could save his job. So we'll have to see if that changes, and if it does change, what that'll look like for this offense. I think they're definitely going to have to upgrade at the offensive line. Batonio and Teller, I think we're pretty good for the most part. They unfortunately went through a lot of centers. We'll see what they do with Jedrick Wills at left tackle. I know he had some injuries, but he's definitely been a disappointment. And I know another thing that Browns fans usually get to look forward to is their draft pick, but we traded our next three first round picks away, so they can't even look forward to that. So a lot of question marks this offseason. Another, again, disappointing season at 7-10, and like you said, couldn't even beat the Steelers but twice in one season, and give Mike Tomlin his first losing season, which again wouldn't make up for a playoff or not making playoffs, but couldn't even do that. So definitely disappointing end of the season, and we'll have to see what they do moving forward. So I think we're going to move on to the Cavs. Definitely a brighter spot, and especially we haven't talked since Donovan Mitchell had a huge game recently. Nick, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so the Cavaliers faced the Bulls about a week ago in Cleveland, and Mitchell literally put the team on his back. Garland and Mobley were unavailable in the game, and I believe the biggest deficit the Cavaliers faced was 21 points. And going into the second quarter, Mitchell only had 15 points, and he was 15 for 20 from the line, 7 out of 11 from 3. I recall looking those numbers up, and he surpassed the franchise record for most points by an individual player. Uh, what was once set by LeBron at 57 points is now 71 points. He is the seventh player in NBA history to score 70 or more in a game, and he had to one play that stands out in that game, very similar to what Luka Doncic did a few games prior in Dallas, was he had to intentionally miss a free throw, and didn't have to be him putting it back in, but he made a hustle play to get the rebound and laid in before the final 3 seconds ran out. It sent the game to overtime, and the Cavaliers ended up winning, uh, but I think double digits when they were down the entire game. And I remember a reporter saying to him, uh, a couple games prior when they faced the Bulls in Chicago, he basically said, I didn't play my best. And he kind of made a joke about saying, maybe I should just score 70 points. And she joked back and said, you over delivered on your promise. And, chance of MVP throughout the whole game, just an incredible, stellar performance.
Yeah, and he has been everything Cavs fans have hoped for. The moment we heard that trade, and I know that they traded a lot, but so far I think the Cavs have definitely won that trade. Like any trade, he has to stay healthy, but he just shows that when playoff time comes, and again, there's still a long way to go, and they're still a young team and still have to win games, but he can take over a game. He's just potential superstar that can actually take over games and win a series or two. I'm not going to claim that they're good enough to win the East or anything like that at this point, but if he and Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and the role players are all kind of firing on all cylinders, they're going to be really tough out in the playoffs. And again, that's a long ways away, and we're definitely going to enjoy the regular season. But I've just been amazed at his individual performances and how he's gelled with the team in this early, still early part of the season.
Yeah, and about a month ago, he stated after a game just how happy he is playing in Cleveland, not just for the fans, but his own teammates. The chemistry he has with Garland, Mobley, Allen, and all the role players. It doesn't matter if you're a starter, Jetty, Lopez, just great team chemistry, and got to give some of the credit to JB Bickerstaff too.
Yeah, Bickerstaff has definitely been great. He's helped keep the team together, and appears to help keep the big egos in check, or at least potential for big egos in check. So that's definitely been great to see. So Nick, what do the Cavs have coming up soon?
So tomorrow night they are on the road against the. I apologize. I'm not even sure. But I know they have 4 more road games before they return to Cleveland. They beat the Phoenix Suns last night, and
The Cavs play at Utah Jazz tomorrow at 9 p.m. And yeah, so another tough opponent, but
Mitchell's former team.
yeah, Mitchell's former team, and we'll again hope for and expect a big game from him in front of his former home crowd. Nick, anything else left on the Cavs?
Nope.
And then just want to recap the Buckeyes. They played Georgia in the college football playoff semifinal game. Unfortunately, played a real good game against a real tough team, and blew an 11-point lead and lost 42-41. They had a chance at the end. They missed, completely shanked. I think it was a 49-yard field goal at the end. From what has been a really good kicker all year. And CJ Stroud, I think arguably had the best game of his entire career. It definitely helped his draft stock. He was 23 of 34 for 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he ran for, I want to make sure I get the right number here. He ran for a bunch of yards where he normally doesn't do. He's definitely not known for being a mobile quarterback. He 12 carries for 34 yards, so it wasn't a ton of yards, but he had a 27-yarder in there and he was definitely scrambling around the pocket at times when he came under pressure. So it was really great to see him do that. Unfortunately, for him, it wasn't enough to win. They had some key injuries, unfortunately, but it was nice to see the Buckeyes back there in the college football playoff. Sadly, they couldn't get it done, but I think overall a pretty good season. Got to come back next year and beat Michigan though, because 2 years in a row is unacceptable, and definitely cannot make it 3.
Yeah, and I wanted to make a point on the Michigan TCU game. I think since Buckeye fans or the Buckeyes are not playing in the national championship, the Buckeye fans are relieved that it's not Michigan, Georgia. I don't believe TCU will put up a good fight against Georgia. You never know, especially with what we saw in the TCU Michigan game, and the game's tonight at 8:30. So it'll be exciting to see what TCU can do. I'll certainly be pulling for them, but I have my doubts.
Yeah, we'll see. They've surprised everyone all season, of course, but definitely going to be a tough game against what probably is the best team in the country in Georgia. So we'll see if they can pull off the upset. But yeah, again, not really expecting that. I think they're 13.5-point dogs, but anything can happen. So we'll have to see. And I think that does it for today's show. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll catch you next time.